Hello everyone, Victor Tanzig here, and welcome to the Stories of Sodor Questions and Answers Part 2. I hope you all enjoyed the first one. Is this going to be the last questions and answers video? Who's to say? Depends on how long this runs for. Okay, so I'll keep the introduction short so we can get stuck right into it. Besides Thomas and Tuggs, what other shows do you like? My absolute favourite would probably be Game of Thrones. It's just so terrific. It's really, really great. I am sad that it's going to be ending with Season 8, but I am dying to see how it will end, and I really, really do hope they do a good job of it. But given the show's history up to now, they can't not do a good job of it. I also do like Daria, as I mentioned in a previous video. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, yes, I also do love House of Cards as well. It's just so chilling. Like, that Kevin Spacey, man, can he act. What setup do you use to capture and record the Trainz footage? I have a custom-made PC that I use for practically everything. Custom-made in that I picked the parts and I had it professionally tested and assembled. If you want the full specifications, you can just have a look down in the description. What would you recommend to anyone new looking to establish their first Trainz series? Just do it. Just have a go at it. Don't worry about it. Don't think about the potential negatives. Just make your episodes and put them out there and see what happens. If they're successful, great. If they're not, don't be disheartened. Just take pride in knowing that you went to all this effort to make your episode, to produce it, to voice it, to write it, whatever, and just be very, very proud of that. As for the filming of the episodes itself, the best advice I can give is find a way that works for you. Find a style, a method, or whatever that you're most comfortable with. And if it takes you months to produce an episode, well, who cares? Work at your own pace. Just try not to let yourself get bogged down too much in it. Like, try not to let it consume you too much. Otherwise, you might run the risk of burning out like I almost did. Why did you choose Trainz Sims to film your series with? Because it's got the best variety of Thomas and Friends models and objects, so really there was no contest. What was your reaction to finding out that you got 1,000 subscribers? Disbelief. I think I went back and checked about half a dozen times to make sure that the count was accurate, that I was actually reading it right. So, yeah, I was absolutely blown away. Like I've said, I didn't expect to get so many subscribers, so thank you all very much again. And I'm just blown away by how many subscribers I've had since. At the time I was making this video, the count was at 1,412. So it'll be interesting to see how it grows from, say, this time next week, or even at the time I upload this video. Model or CGI? Neither, in that I don't actually have a favorite. Like, okay, I will always have a keen fondness and love for the classic series, the model-based series, because how can you not be in awe of the quality of the modeling they did back then? But also the CGI, well, that's the present day, that's the future, so to speak, and you can definitely do more with CGI than you ever could with models. What would you do if the show ever ends? If you're talking about my show, I'd find something else to do, I'm sure of it. If you're talking about the Thomas the Tank Engine show, I'd be like, whoa. Really? I mean, like, I would have thought like the property would have just been too big for anyone to end. Of course, I could just imagine the anarchy that would come as a result. But I guess really, well, nothing lasts forever. Like, all good things must come to an end. I'd be maybe a little bit sad, but I imagine I'd get over it because I'd figure, well, the property's going to live on one way or another, i.e. the merchandise. Thoughts on Season 20 and Journey Beyond Sodor? Well, I've actually included this question to make a sort of a blanket statement about something. I haven't actually watched a full season of Thomas the Tank Engine since I think about season 6. The reason for that is, well, as I've mentioned previously, I was kind of growing out of Thomas by that point, but I still did occasionally watch a few episodes that popped up on the television, and I've since watched scattered episodes about the series since, like throughout the closing years of the model era, during the brief period when they were transplanting CGI faces onto the models, right up into the current CGI era of Thomas the Tank Engine. Like I said, I've only watched a few scattered episodes, and they've varied in quality as far as I'm concerned, but I am extremely impressed with the CGI ones. Like I said, just said, you can definitely do more with the CGI era than you ever could with the models. So in that spirit, I haven't actually watched any of the Thomas the Tank Engine movies, and I'm not like to. I mean, like, I've never heard a single good thing said about Thomas and the Magic Railroad, and all the other movies since have also gotten mixed reviews, so yeah, like I said, I'm not likely to watch any of them.
What is your favorite color?
Green, which answers the question of why Henry is my favorite character. He was the first engine I ever saw that was green, and, well, that was enough for me. What's the program you use to record Trainz? I use Fraps. Which SI3D models do you like most? 2006, 2009, 2010, or 2012 models? My favorite would be the 2010. I guess I should probably expand on a question that was posed earlier, like why do I use the older Trainz content? The reason I use the 2010 models is because they remind me most of the old model series for some reason. They remind me of the classic Thomas models more. I don't know why. I mean, keep in mind, I'm not bad-mouthing SI3D for their newer models, far from it. I mean, they are exceptional. I will admit, I do kind of wish that when they did the 2012 models of the narrow gauge engines, that they kind of released them in the 2006 size or the 2006 scale, but hey, whatever, they're the creators, they can do whatever they want with them. How long have you been using Trainz in general? I'd say at most 5 years. Have you seen Star Wars, and if so, which episode is your favourite? I have seen Star Wars, I'm a big fan. I would have to say episode 7, The Force Awakens, although at the time of this video the rest of the series hasn't been released yet. Although I do have to admit, actually no, it's probably a tie between Episode 7 and Rogue One. They're both just really good. I'd also like to take this opportunity to express my own opinion about something that's been done to death, I'm sure, but hey, whatever. I actually liked the Star Wars prequels. I'll admit they're not perfect, but I certainly don't think they deserve all the hate that's directed their way. Could it have been better? Well, obviously, I mean, I'm sure any movie could. I think also the prequels could have and would have worked better, maybe if Jar Jar Binks wasn't such a blithering idiot. Like, maybe if he had been on the same level as sort of like K2 from Rogue One, you know, just like that witty, sarcastic sidekick. But hey, whatever, just one man's opinion. Who is your favourite tank engine? That would be Duck. If you had to choose another engine to narrate, who would it be? I'd probably pick Toby, because there was always something about him that struck me as him being very wise, even if that didn't necessarily come across all the time in the TV series. I mean, come on, how could he not know what a special attraction was? Why are you motivated to stay in the fandom as an adult? Because it's allowed me to be creative. It's allowed me to establish this channel and express myself in ways that I've never been able to up to this point. Will you indirectly extend the Tug series using the engines to represent it? I think I kind of already have. Well, the episode count of my series is definitely going to exceed the episode count of Tugs, that's for sure. So will the engines represent it? I guess they would. Would you mind if people used the same concept as you have in the making of this series? Of course not. I mean, like I've said previously, I can't be the only one who's ever thought of combining Tugs and Thomas the Tank Engine in such a way, so by all means, go for it. If you could or had to live in another country, where would it be? Well, if I had a choice, I wouldn't live anywhere else, simply because I love living here in Australia. I love my house, I love the location I'm at. Yeah, it's just ideal for me. If I had to, maybe I'd probably go to England, because, well, I haven't travelled a lot. Actually, I've travelled hardly anywhere, but I have travelled to England, and I did like it there a lot. Or I would probably maybe go to Fiji. That's also another place I've been to, and it was absolutely beautiful. Favorite era or type of music? I don't really have a favorite. If I like it, I'll listen to it. That's pretty much it. Although I do love Nickelback. They are my favorite band, and their song, Gotta Be Somebody, is my absolute favorite. When Toby was speaking Spanish in Mainline, did someone help you with the translations, or did you do it yourself? Does Google Translate count? Yeah, that was the resource I used. I don't speak Spanish, I don't speak any other language. I've barely mastered English as it is. But yeah, you know, just on that note, I did have a couple of native Spanish speakers write comments in that video, and they weren't scathing or anything. A lot of them were actually pretty understanding, but I'm sure it was obvious to maybe even non-Spanish speakers that I did kind of struggle with it a bit. So I don't hold my translations up to be 100% accurate, and certainly not my pronunciation. So if there are any Spanish speakers listening, sorry if you were put off by my butchering your language. No offense was intended. What would you be doing today if you didn't decide to do YouTube? Probably getting myself a Netflix account and binge watching every show on there. If Tugs made a season 2, what kind of stories do you think they would have done? My guess is probably more of the same. You know, the Star Tugs doing good work, the Z-Stacks trying to undermine them, the Star Tugs coming out on top, the Z-Stacks being thoroughly humiliated. Yeah, I think that would have been it. To be honest with you, I think the only thing that might have saved the show if it had kept going would have been the dialogue, because I always did think the dialogue in Tugs was extremely good, even if the plots were incredibly divisive and, well, kind of cliche. Will you use the Tugs Danger theme? I tell you what, I'd love to, but I've never been able to find a good quality one of it anywhere. Tell you what, if anyone does know, please sound off in the comments below. What episode of Thomas the Tank Engine is your least favourite? That would be Stepney Gets Lost. Yeah, I never really liked that episode because, well, okay, Stepney somehow ends up in a scrapyard. He gets nabbed by two diesels who seem hell-bent on killing him. The giant claw comes down, and then at the last possible moment, he's saved by none other than the Fat Controller, who, by all logic, shouldn't even be there. But then, what am I saying? I'm trying to introduce logic to a show about anthropomorphic trains. So, yeah, that was, like, really kind of predictable. Like, I mean, there was no way they were going to let an engine get scrapped, much less Stepney. And also that last bit at the end where Stepney is leaving the scrapyard and he shouts out, "Bluebells forever," that just always seemed weird to me. What creative challenges have you faced when making and developing your videos? Are there any techniques you have picked up or learnt as your series has progressed over time? Probably the greatest creative challenge I've faced is my constant stammering and stuttering whenever I go to do the voices and the narration. That's probably the biggest impediment I've faced. Filming and everything else, that's the easy part, really. Although that's also the most time consuming as well, because like I think for every maybe 3 hours of filming I do, I might get maybe 4 or 5 minutes worth of usable footage out of it. And as for the techniques I've picked up, well, I've learned to plan ahead a lot more, and I've also learned like to be a little bit more patient as well, like to try not to get as frustrated, although that doesn't always work. How many custom locations do you have on your railway? A lot. Yeah, I know that's not very specific, but that's the best I can answer, because with a few exceptions, I actually film my series on one gigantic route. You see, over the course of several weeks when I was first starting out this series, I actually made a custom route combining multiple routes from other users, and then I slotted them together like an enormous jigsaw puzzle, and in between the routes, or when necessary, I made alterations. All the route creators are credited in my series, so I haven't left anyone out. So yeah, I really can't say how many custom locations I have. Why did you remake your old videos? Because the voice work was shocking, and there were also a few other problems with it as well, so I decided to make alterations to make them better, and I think that I have. Do you like Tugs or Thomas more? Well, I like them both equally. Really, I can't pick one over the other. I have a fan theory for your series. Can I make a video about it, please? Of course. Are you going to release a deleted footage video? No, because I use most of the footage that I film, and anything I don't use, I get rid of it. But there is one thing I will show you guys. What you're about to see is the original intro I had planned for my series. Yeah, vastly inferior to the one that I'm currently using, I think anyway. And what's really strange is, until 3 days before I was going to start up my channel, I was dead set on using the intro you just saw. And then all of a sudden, on that day, I was struck by this absolute amazing bout of creativity, this epiphany, as it were, about synthesizing the Tugs opening theme into my series, and the intro that I'm currently using, the one that you guys have all seen up to this point, I whipped that up in about 3 hours, and it was incredible, really. And then I went back and I added it to every single video that I'd already made up to that point. I redid them and everything. So isn't it funny how how creativity can just strike you like a lightning bolt? Would you consider working for the Thomas Creator Collective? I'd certainly be honoured, but I'm not arrogant enough to think that my work is up to their standards, so I'd wait for an invitation from such a distinguished group. I certainly wouldn't approach them. Will you do a face reveal?
Yes, I will.
Why have you put Lily, Adam, Colin, Donald and Douglas as rivals for the LNER and not the Diesels? Because Steamies versus Diesels, it's been done to death. And also, the time period at which I'm starting my series, there weren't a whole lot of diesel engines around then. And yes, I know I'm completely stretching historical truth and accuracy by including diesel in my series, but, well, I couldn't not. And besides, I would find it very hard to believe that all steam engines got along amicably before the advent of diesels. Like, okay, maybe when diesel engines came along, steamies would have found camaraderie with one another, like they were essentially a dying breed, so to speak. But yeah, like I said, there had to have been rivalries among steam engines before then, so that's kind of what I'm exploring with my series. Am I going over the top and exaggerating it a bit? Most certainly, but I think it provides for an entertaining story nonetheless. Do you like cats? I prefer dogs. Like, if I had to pick a pet, I would certainly choose a dog. If you could pick a real-life locomotive to be an original, Thomas, or Stories of Sodor character, what would you choose? What characteristics would he or she have? Hands down, I would pick the 3801. I'll save you lot the Google search. The 3801 is this fine specimen here. It's an NSWR 38 class 462 tender engine. It was in service from 1943 to 1976. It's pretty much the Flying Scotsman of Australia in that it's pretty much an engine that everyone knows about, or at least anyone who lives near the railway tracks will know about it. And I'd pick this one also for a personal reason, in that I actually saw this engine in action when I was a kid. I think I may have been about 5 or 6, and it was doing a tour, and it stopped at a station not so far from where I was living at the time. And I just remember there must have been thousands of people flocking to the station to see it in action, just the hissing steam and whatnot. And yes, I am aware that it's green. That was also another major appeal for me. And also, my parents took a photo of the 3801, and then they enlarged it and framed it. And we had that photo for years and years and years. Might even still have it somewhere. And I couldn't help but not smile every single time I looked at it. And, you know, now that I think about it, I'm wondering if that might have actually been the catalyst for my love of trains. Although I am told that I did have something of a keen fascination for it when I was younger than that, maybe about 2, but this had to have been a key component towards stoking my love of trains, specifically steam trains. I don't know whether this would qualify as sexist, but I could only think of the 3801 being male. What characteristics would he have? I would probably imagine he'd be like Gordon, in that he'd take great pride in being a very fast, very stylish steam engine, but I imagine he wouldn't be so much of a snob about it, because snobbishness is not really well looked upon here in Australia, or anywhere else in the world, but here in Australia, if you're a snob, you won't get far. Also, I don't know why, but I'd imagine him being named Bruce. Yeah, I don't know why. Like, I certainly wouldn't, if I had to pick, I certainly wouldn't go by a number. I'd call him Bruce. What do you call a train that carries apples and bananas? Tutti Frutti. I swear, that wasn't my joke. It was a legitimate question that was posted in my Millennium video, and I just thought it was too good / bad to not include. So kudos to the user who posted it. You know who you are. Okay, on that extremely lame joke, I think I'll leave it for today. There are only a few more questions, but too many to tack on to this video, I feel. So the next Q&A video, which will be uploaded tomorrow, will be the last one. So I hope you enjoyed watching this one. I hope you'll enjoy the next one. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good one.